I want you to imagine something. Imagine you're a soldier sent on a mission, and for the next 30 years, you keep fighting a war that literally everyone else in the world knows is over. This isn't some Hollywood script. This is the very real, absolutely mind-bending true story of a man named Hiroo Onoda. And really, to get inside his head, there's no better place to start than with his own words. This one simple, powerful idea. This is the key to understanding how a human being could endure the unimaginable for so long. So let's rewind. To really grasp why he spent 3 decades in a jungle, we have to go all the way back to the very beginning, to a very specific set of orders he was given in the final chaotic months of World War II. Yeah, see, Onoda wasn't your average foot soldier. Not even close. He was an elite intelligence officer trained at a special school for unconventional secret warfare. His job wasn't to fight on the front lines. It was to infiltrate, to disrupt, and above all else, to survive. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. For basically every other Japanese soldier at the time, there was this code, the Senjin-kun code, and it was simple. You don't surrender. Ever. Dying in battle or by your own hand was considered more honorable. But Onoda, his orders were the exact opposite. And this right here, this is the sentence that changes everything. Just think about that. While hundreds of thousands of his comrades are being told to die for the emperor, Onoda is explicitly ordered. Your job is to stay alive, no matter what. That one command is what would define, and in many ways trap, him for the next 29 years. Okay, so how does that single, unusual order stretch into a personal war that lasts for 3 decades, long after the rest of the planet had moved on? Let's get into it. I mean, just look at this timeline. It's staggering. The war ends in 45, but when Onoda and his men see the leaflets announcing it, they just go, nope, that's enemy propaganda, and they melt back into the jungle. For the next 27 years, the world ages, but their war is frozen in time. Comrades fall, one by one, until he's the last man standing, utterly alone, and still convinced he's serving his country. And this quote, wow. It tells you everything you need to know about his mindset. His sense of duty was so total, so absolute, that his own well-being, his personal feelings, it literally never even occurred to him to ask if this was a good life for him. It was always about the mission. And that mission was just a brutal, day-in, day-out grind for survival. We're talking about being constantly on the move, never staying in one camp for more than a few days so they wouldn't be found. Their diet was scraps, whatever they could find, or more often, what they could steal from local villagers. And that created a decades-long conflict that often turned deadly. So while Onoda is living this grueling, paranoid existence, the world he thought he was fighting for had completely vanished. It was replaced by something he couldn't even begin to imagine. The disconnect from reality was total. He'd see jets flying overhead and think, great, the counterattack has begun. In reality, that was the Korean War. Search parties would leave newspapers and photos from his family, and he just dismissed them as incredibly elaborate fakes, as Yankee propaganda. Every single piece of evidence from the outside was twisted to fit his unshakable belief. And what's wild is that, looking back, he admitted it himself in his memoir. They hadn't just been hiding in the jungle physically. They had built a mental fortress, a perfect echo chamber. If any piece of information challenged their reality, it was just automatically and defensively rejected. So what could possibly break through that kind of delusion after 30 years? Not newspapers, not radios, not even his own family members pleading with him over loudspeakers. No, it took a young adventurer finding him and then bringing his former commanding officer, Major Taniguchi, to the island to stand in front of him and give a formal, face-to-face order relieving him of duty. Only then would he believe the war was over. When Onoda returned to Japan, it was a national sensation. But that simple, clean narrative of the loyal soldier coming home, it immediately shattered against a much darker and more complicated reality. At first, he was treated like a rock star. A crowd of 8,000 people showed up to welcome him home. For a nation that had gone through so much change, he was like a time capsule, a living symbol of the old-world samurai spirit. Loyalty, duty, perseverance. But that heroic image cracked almost immediately. Reports started flooding in from the Philippines, alleging that Onoda's group was responsible for the deaths of as many as 30 islanders, farmers and fishermen caught in the crossfire of his personal war. For them, he wasn't a hero. He was the cause of a 30-year-long nightmare. So you see, his legacy was never going to be simple. Was he the noble hero, or was he a tragic victim, a young man brainwashed by militarism and then just abandoned? Or was he a dangerous fanatic whose stubborn pride cost innocent lives? And to make it even messier, his own ghostwriter later claimed his famous memoir was largely a fabrication, a fantasy. The truth is, he was, and still is, seen as all of these things at once. So here we are, nearly half a century later, and the story of Hiroo Onoda is still endlessly fascinating. Why? Why does it still have such a powerful grip on our imagination? I think it's because his story has become this potent, if extreme, metaphor for our modern world. In an age where we talk nonstop about filter bubbles, fake news, and conspiracy theories, Onoda is the ultimate case study. He is proof that a person can become so locked into their own reality that they can reject all contrary evidence for 3 decades. And this debate is far from over. New films and documentaries are still coming out, re-examining his story, not just as some adventure of endurance, but also to finally give a voice to the Filipino islanders who lived in fear for all those years. The question of who gets to tell this story is more relevant than ever. Ultimately, Onoda's astonishing life acts like a mirror, forcing us to look at our own beliefs. It leaves us with a really challenging question. If one man can build a reality so strong that it lasts for 30 years against all evidence, well, how certain can any of us be about the walls we build around ourselves?